Hello YouTube, welcome back. We're continuing the game of Microscope. I did a little bit of Blender in the interim, which was fun. I gave a wizard a beard, both sculpturally and hairily, which is probably quite mystifying if you don't know what happened. So, I'll just let that hang. I'll leave it as a kind of J.J. Abrams mystery box for you. You can all try and unpick the meaning of the wizard's beard. That'd be good, wouldn't it? How's that for an intro? Chunky, what do you reckon? Do you think that's going to get all the likes? Every subscribe. Suddenly, it's going to make Gangnam Style look stupid. Well, I mean, it's going to make it look like small change. Yeah, okay.
To make it look stupid.
Right, so we are about to start. We've done our palette. We've put everything we want on the yes column. We've put everything we want on the no column. So now it's time to decide the order of play. I've nominated Osmosis Jones as he's the only mod in at the moment. He's going to be the spokesperson for chat. So people pitch ideas to him for when it comes to chat's turn. And he will, pick a method to decide which is which, whether it be a vote or whatever. Also, if anyone's of an artistic bent, if you are inspired by anything we say to come up with a little doodle or a little scribble, feel free to give me the link and I'll have a look at it. No cocks and bollocks, please. Or individually, honestly, unless it's a male chicken, in which case, fine. Not sure how it's going to come up in this context, but whatever. If you really must put cocks in everything, fine. Where were we? So yeah, we need to decide who's going first. You, me, or let's have chat go last, so they've got time to actually organise something. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to force them into action straight away. Let's have a little look. See.
I've got one, if that helps.
Go on then. You go first.
So I was going to go with a new period.
Mm-hmm.
Which is going to be the age of scarcity, or period of scarcity.
Mm. And this is obviously on the ship, right? So this is once they've blasted off.
Well, I suppose that is entirely dependent on if someone puts a period before it, and
I suppose so. Yeah. Well, we've got first period as the blast off, so you're going in for an intermediate period between the two that we've got, the age of scarcity.
And I'm going to go with, it's a scarcity of food.
Okay.
Or, foodstuffs.
Okay, so basically there's a high risk of, or an actual occurrence of, famine on the colony ship.
Yeah. And I'd imagine that actually in that era, there probably were actually famines during that time. Foodstuff become scarce. So that'll do.
Also, I think just quickly we need to ask a few elementary questions just at the very beginning so we get on the same track, essentially. Are the people on the ship human?
I left it open by saying, the generation ship lifts off to find a new home for the people. So we're not necessarily leaving Earth here. No.
We could be leaving some other culture. So we'll keep it broad still then, and we'll paint the details in bit by bit. So in the scarcity era, foodstuffs become scarce. Okay, so that's good. Is it on to me then next? Or do you have further detail?
Not at the moment. Maybe we'll add to it later. But I've made it dark, which we hadn't talked about before.
Events, yes, good point. We better go over that, actually.
Yeah. They're all either light or dark, and it's a flavour for that era or period or event, and it basically sets the tone, good or bad, light or dark. Okay.
Well, I've actually got an idea already, so I am going to add, rather than a period, I'm going to add an event. So, what do? Do I click here, add event, and it's going to be the Engine Room War.
Cool.
And this is inside the Age of Hunger. What's it called? The Age of Hunger? Age of Scarcity. There we go, edit. So this is the Engine Room War. Okay, and in this period...
Morlocks.
Yeah, in this period, a faction within the ship, an undefined as of yet faction, the ship... Actually,
undefined engine.
Let's say Dex 350 to, through 580. Rebel and try to seize control. Have I spelled C? No, I haven't spelled seize right. That's an X. Z. Seize control of the engine room to turn the ship around. Okay. So
we're going the wrong way.
How many floors have I actually defined there? Is that let's save that. So that's 350 through 580. Let me just quickly whip out the calculator. 220 floors of people on the ship decide, fuck this, the food's running out. And I'm thinking maybe those particular floors had a real bad famine. So like they were like eating each other, and it had got proper, cannibalistic and stuff. Maybe I'll add that to the flavour. Let me just add that. Faction within the ship, brackets, cannibals, driven to a homophagous diet.
Osmosis is saying that the chat isn't visible on stream.
Okay, that's a very good point. Let's make that so. Where is chat? Here we go. Somewhere down here there is Twitch chat, and if I put it up a few layers, it will go over me. Somebody say something. There we go. We've got you. That's brilliant. That could probably be a little bit bigger, couldn't it? There we go. And if I type "Cram" into chat, there we go. It's not great, but there is a border on the text, so it can be read, although that would be better. Brilliant. Okay. I might have to do something about that background. Can we change the colour of the background here?
I've not found a way.
Okay, well, we'll leave it for now. Anyway, so a faction within the ship, cannibals driven to a homophagous diet by famine. There we go. And then let's look at that. 2 sets of parentheses immediately following each other. In fact, let's not do that. Let's do nested parentheses. Oh, yeah. Oh, look at that. Double brackets. Lovely. They rebel and trying to seize control of the engine room to turn the ship around. So, that's the engine room war. An event within the... how do I head back up to the overview? There we go. Within the scarcity era. So we've got one event. It's looking good. It's looking good. So, I think it's time for chat to put forward their first thing. Osmosis, has anything risen to the surface, or are you now scrabbling on your own to think of something? What is percolating through the chat? I'm thinking just to
actually, you went with Super Chaser's cannibalism option, so that worked.
Oh, we've already put that in. Cannibalism has invaded my metabolism, as I believe the lyric goes. I don't know what it's from. I just heard someone say it a lot. Osmosis Jones would prefer something synthetic. Rices is asking, is it an ecological ship of flora and fauna, or a more subtle scarcity of accessing the resources? This is an interesting question I think we should stop a second and think about, because
why?
I'm imagining the ship at the moment, although it hasn't been canonized by being put down in the text. I'm imagining it as an enormous asteroid that has been carved out to be the ship. So there's lots and lots and lots of like floors just carved out, and a massive engine chamber at the back, and there's a bridge with an enormous sort of like a window in it. I'm thinking maybe it's like in the shape of one of the whoever's on the ship. So if it's a human ship, it's like in the shape of a human statue flying through space kind of thing. And in that, I'm imagining like all sorts, hydroponics. Maybe on the surface they could have some kind of glass dome system, or even like just enormous panelled windows on the side of the asteroid that can be tilted towards a nearby star when they're going past one close enough to like afford an actual sort of simulated outdoors environment. Then again, now that I think about that, that would be difficult to do with the sort of spinning gravity kind of thing, wouldn't it? Because that pushes everything to the outside of the ship. So everybody would be walking along the glass at the bottom.
On the glass plate, yeah. And also the speed that it would have to turn.
True. You could have zero-G greenhouses, though, I suppose, maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting, like big spherical carrots. And
but you would have... So the outside would spin the fastest.
Yeah.
So the inside would actually be...
Well, actually, no, I'm thinking the outside doesn't spin. The entire core of the asteroid maybe is on a kind of spindle or...
spindle, yeah.
What's the word? What's the thing? An axle. And that, the interior spins. So, that means the closer you get to the axle, the stronger... Stronger? Or is it the further away you get?
Yeah, so because it's centrifugal, it's the further away, the faster it's going.
So there's stronger gravity on the outside, and then the inside there's a lot. There's no gravity.
Force.
Yeah, force. Yes, it's not gravity because of course we have no artificial gravity in this. We've just got fake gravity.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's
gravity.
Is that a good? Do people like that ship? Do people like that? Because I quite like the idea. It's like the center core rotates and the outside can be like tilted. The attitude can be changed to point towards stars. Maybe instead of having like a zero-G like garden or farm in these things, they could be enormous algae tanks with great big agitators that sort of turn it all so it gets near to the surface. And then this could be the source of the famine. Maybe they get so far away from a star that they don't have any reliable starlight to make any photosynthesizing plants. So they end up having to rely on sort of protein mush stuff that's synthesized in the other parts of the ship, and it's very unpalatable.
If there's light, it would be like hydroponics anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Or aeroponics.
Aeroponics, yeah, that works. But yeah, like algae vats getting like a fungal infection or something like that.
Yeah, the ship could get a fungal infection. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Is the food plant-based, animal-based, or synthetic? I think everything. I reckon that you would have...
animals would be less likely.
Less likely, but...
it depends on the size of this structure.
At the scale I'm thinking, I'm imagining it's possible. Because I don't think... If you're going to do a colony ship and you're going to go to another world, you're not just going to be taking people. You're going to be taking their pets, livestock, and all sorts of stuff. And I feel like people will have been recruited based, like they'll have gone, you've got a farm, you want to bring the entire thing. And then so they sort of like uproot everything, get it on the ship, and they have a space on the ship that's artificially lit, but essentially like a recreation, not a recreation, but like an actual farm for all intents and purposes, because the ceiling's so high, you get that haze from the atmosphere.
I don't know how much Babylon 5 you saw or watched, but that was actually a spinning station, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had that. It was sort of like a long tube with a sort of oblate spheroid tip. Rather phallic, now that I think about it. Let me just quickly open up another tab. I'll put that on another window so everybody can see Microscope. Is that what's happened there? That's what's happened there. I'm just going to look up Babylon 5. Let's have a look. Image search. Let's see the ship. No, I'm completely wrong. Although it is fairly phallic. It's got like it's got like solar panels at the back end and stuff. Let me just go back here. No, I don't want to know why Babylon 5 was stationed in orbit around Epsilon 5. Why would I want to know that? Let's pop this up here and then we can see. There we go. Look, there's Babylon 5. I'm thinking of something stonier and bigger, if anything. I mean, I don't actually have any sense of scale for this whatsoever, so I don't know how big it is. But
I think it's pretty big.
Big, but is it that big? Is it big enough for our purposes? That's the question. Okay, sabotage. There is a power struggle and the faction wants to make a faction B that is currently the top dog look bad. Okay, so they fuck up the... Okay. So you're saying within the scarcity era, an event that kicks off the scarcity era...
Yeah, and it would have to be at the beginning.
Yes. Okay, shall I write this in?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's add another event. That's a period I've added. Shit.
No, that's editing. Yeah.
One event.
Right, yeah.
Oh, here we go. We're in the events. Let's add another event. No, don't delete. Oh my god, I'm so bad. Okay, how do we move them? How do we put the event?
You just do add, and you add before.
Oh, okay. So delete this one.
Add left. Yeah.
Delete. Oh, I see. Yeah. Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we call this? We call this the something sabotage. Oh, I've got to click edit.
You could use names from chat.
Let's see. Oh, let's call this the osmosis sabotage.
Yeah.
The osmosis sabotage. And what happens is the osmosis sabotage, which technically means putting the boot in. Right. So the osmosis sabotage. Algae tanks epsilon to gamma. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm so keen to give these things, but I'm going to do it. Epsilon to gamma are sabotaged by adding a fungal agent to the osmotic membranes. Causing bacteria to causing a bacterial bloom that excretes poisons, excretes toxic waste. Excretes. What's a good word for something a bacteria excretes? Is Super Chaser here? He'd know. Excrete.
Exudes or something like that, isn't it?
Exudes.
Yeah. Excrete is fine.
Excrete. Both. They both excretes very toxic poo.
Toxins.
Toxins. Let's just say toxins. Rendering the tanks unusable and starting a famine, a great famine, in terms of scale rather than quality. Oh, we're having the best famine, the greatest famine. Okay, so we've got two events now. If we head back to the overview, we can see that we've got the blast-off period, the scarcity era, and first recontact as the last period. And within here, we have two events, the osmosis sabotage and the engine room war. So, already the seeds of strife have been sown. Now, what's the next stage? Do we pick a focus here?
Yeah.
Okay. So who's going to be the lens for this round? Do you want to do that?
Sure. I want to focus on the rebel faction.
Okay, the cannibal faction.
The engine cannibal faction, yeah.
Okay, we'll do that then. So, our focus this round, everything we add this time round, has to relate to the faction from the engine room war, who became cannibals during the famine and attempted to take over the engine room. Of course, we don't know if they were successful or not yet, and we know nothing else about them. So let's see what we can drill into and find out. So, do you go first? What happens is you go first.
Oh, yeah, I'll go first,
and then
I'll go last as well.
You go last as well, and then it's my turn to pick a focus, and then I go first and last. Yeah, okay, that's good. Okay, so what's your first element?
My first element is
It's getting very
within the scarcity era after the engine room war. There is the troubles, and maybe I should call it something different because
I have been forced to inhale helium to subtract credibility from my statements. That was very edgy. I shouldn't have done that. I apologise to anyone that's upset
by
that.
Difficulties. The difficulties.
The difficulties. That's a very diplomatic way of putting it. We're going to run out of abstract words for bad things. I've just realised I haven't made my scene. I haven't made the osmosis sabotage dark. There we go.
Yeah. The difficulties. This is dark as well. It is an insurgency. Fomented by the what are we calling these engineer folk?
Well, I mean, let's pick a name given to them by everybody else on the ship. So we're talking like 200 odd decks worth of people who've suddenly gone cannibalistic, and I reckon the rest of the ship is probably very much, what the fuck? What's going on here? We're not cannibalising each other. We're going through the famine too. We're, getting skinny and eating nothing but very limited amounts of protein paste. Maybe. Okay. What do we know about these people? All we know about them is they're cannibals and they've started a war.
And they live in the engine area.
Well, no, I don't think they do. Where are they? Because Dex 350s are 580. Let's think about what they might be. Are these gravity decks? Like, are these fake gravity decks, or are they?
Or do they run from like the tip to the bows of the ship, so the front to the back?
I see. Oh god, that would be a bit weird though. I think you get more surface area if they're sort of around the edge, the outside of the cylinder, in sort of that kind of circular, rather than stacked. Because if they're stacked, then all the gravity is going sort of sideways.
Well, I was thinking more that you might have, rather than you might just have like segments going back, but decks, sort of implies that it's the lower part of towards the edge, at the bottom of the gravity, the more gravity, or maybe not. It could be the high bit.
Okay, I'm thinking, right, the area these people live in has got to be a relatively impoverished area, right? So let's think about what sort of, maybe it's like an industrial. It's like an industrial area where they do a lot of fabricating and making of stuff. Okay. Then again, in this kind of far future, are we seeing factories manned by people?
Well, then I think the place where people wouldn't want to live would be closest to the centre of the gravity.
So you got less gravity as you get closer to the sun.
Less gravity as you get to the centre of the spin.
So let's say floor 580. Okay. Is right next to the spindle. There's basically no gravity. Everybody gets all long and thin unless they take frequent medical trips to the higher gravity zones. Anyone who spends all their time down there ends up. So what do they do? What is this enormous group of impoverished people living in relatively low gravity with?
They're probably the cleaners and the janitors, basically. 220 decks of janitors. The
janitorial staff all just completely flip out. They just don't like the paste they're getting. Okay. So they're like the custodial. That's how they managed to be successful enough to actually mount a war. They're like one of the factions in the ship that know the most about the rest of the ship because they're constantly out there cleaning and fixing. And we've got to remember, in this sort of this sort of like biotechnological kind of ship, then a lot of the stuff they're doing is going to be sort of, I don't know, grafting in muscles or stringing through nerves and whatnot. Because I like the idea that although like the components for the ship are all grown, they have to be actually fitted together. And, maybe you've got like a bone coupling on the end that just sort of clicks in and it sounds gross now I think about it, but so these guys, the people who start, what are they called? They're called, the name they're given once they start this war would be, I mean,
I could go with the Janitor Liberation Front or something.
The janitor the custodial something with a sort of Latin-ish sounding twist to it. Custodes. No, that's not something that people call people when they hate each other. Blood mops. People refer to them as blood mops because they've gone cannibalistic.
Yeah,
they're like the visceral.
I think we go with that.
Blood mops. Okay, I don't like it, but it's canon now. Let's go with it. So, the group are called the Blood Mops, and what was the? How did we get onto this tangent? What were you adding again?
Adding an insurgency. So,
okay.
I'll save it so you can see it. So, the insurgency fomented by the Blood Mops kills thousands. Fertilizer bombs rip through the habitats.
Ooh, nice. Okay, so that's good. So there's a period of sort of like a. This should be prior to the engine room war, surely?
No, I'm having it afterwards.
Oh, okay. So they're not wiped out. The engine room war doesn't result in a complete purge of the people now known as the Blood Mops, because you can't get rid of all the people who are trained to operate the ship. You'll be knee deep in human shit.
Yeah, to change, filters on, life support systems and, gunk out of the fungal tanks or whatever.
Yeah, which is exactly why they had such. They're the people who did the osmosis sabotage as well, I think.
And if there's bioengineering, actually, they might be like cleaning
arteries.
Arteries, yeah, and hearts that pump
no
conditioning fluids around.
There's a failed anus on the spaceport side. We need to get it open, otherwise the thing's going to start backflowing.
The toilets that they poo into or use are actual anuses.
Oh no. Horrific, but practical. Okay, so that's your element. I am going to think. So we need to develop more the idea of the insurgent faction, the Blood Mops. I think. Am I going to go for an event, or am I going to carry them on to a new period? I think. I am going to go for or I could go for a scene, or we could go for another event. Let's have a look. Specs Marina has said, though civilizations advance with time, some areas do have a retrograde advancement path, so why not ultra high-tech fabricators manned by the proletariat? That's not a bad idea. I imagine, though, this would be interesting, because they would all have the equivalent of medical degrees because of their knowledge of biotechnology and stuff, but they're still the guys cranking the handle on the pacemaker. So, difficulties, the engine room war, the osmosis sabotage. I think what do we do? What do we have here? Okay. I'm going to have, after the difficulties, I'm going to add another dark event. Let's scroll over so we can actually see it. Let's edit. It's very dark, this period.
Incredibly dark period of time.
I'm going to call this the blood. No, that's the blood. The Blood Mop Isolation. Okay. So, decks. What were the decks? 350 to 580.
Yeah.
350.
Go for. Oh, no, you do it. I was going to say a little bit less, so they've been pushed back.
Oh, okay. The Blood Mops. This name is terrible. The Blood Mops are pushed down deeper into the ship and are forced to live in what's it like a controlled community, like
prison.
in
ghetto.
Prison conditions. Okay. In this time, the faction begins to experiment with self-modifications to adapt their children to low gravity. Okay, so they do some guided evolution, I think. So during this isolation period where they're pushed down and they forced to live in prison conditions, only allowed out to to carry out supervised work.
Chain gangs.
Yeah. Custodial work.
For the suggestion for a better name, which is Undivided Union.
That's good. I like that. That is better than Blood Mop, although it doesn't have the... Maybe to them, cannibalism is not something... Maybe to them, it's not cannibalism, because they're eating people from the other factions. So they don't call it cannibalism, because they're mad. Okay, I like the Undivided Union. Let me just copy that from chat, and...
I'll edit the difficulties.
Yep. Save. There we go. So this period has been quite well fleshed out so far. We've gone from the scarcity era just being foodstuffs become scarce to having that explained quite well. The osmosis sabotage, the Undivided Union, that was... Sorry, hiccups and burps. The Undivided Union sabotage the osmotic membranes of algae tanks, which causes the algae to be unusable, and they have to purge it all and recycle. Well, I'm just adding detail there, but like recycling and getting it working again will take a long time. This leads to the engine room war, where the cannibals, the Undivided Union, have decided, the janitorial staff have all decided that they're going to try and take control of the engine room to go back to wherever they came from. This leads to the difficulties. I'm imagining the engine room war ends in a sort of stalemate with no one taking control of the engine room, but the initial course of the ship being maintained. This leads to the difficulties where they have an insurgency and they undergo a bombing campaign throughout the rest of the ship, and then this leads to them being isolated. I did not edit that properly. They still says blood mops.
No, that could be the colloquial, like the...
That's what the enemies call them. That's what their opponents call them. Goddamn blood mops. You can't trust a blood mop. As I'm sure people in the movies about this would have said. So that's my addition. Let's have a look at chat and see if we have anything bubbling to the surface. Osmosis Jones, have there been any ideas you wish to put forward, that you wish to press to the front, as 'twere? They can be framed, but I think the cannibalism thing is now canon. They're definitely eating people. I mean, are they baddies? I don't know. They were driven to cannibalism. Does this maintain, though? That's the thing. Does it now become just a cultural thing? They're like, yeah, sure, we eat the dead. Because it doesn't necessarily mean like 28 days later they're running at you like a frothing mob, grabbing you. Maybe they're just, they just happen to take the dead off the battlefield and go, looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah.
As you do. Oh, very fancy.
They could. And would you say that then, because of the amount of prions that they're eating, actually, that would have future generations would have massive problems, probably.
They all end up with brains like Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
What's that cheese actually called with the holes in it?
Well, there's a few of them. Emmental, Jarlsberg, they've all got holes in them.
It's a con. They're trying to cheat you. It's mostly air. It's like a bag of crisps. So let's have a look. Osmosis.
Sold on weight.
I mean, the Undivided Union, it's a story generator that uses brainstorming techniques. Yes, Specs Marina. Essentially, this is the shape of the game. We just keep going round and round. I mean, in this particular instance, we've focused quite heavily on a specific period. Often you end up with lots of periods and events spread all the way out, but we've kind of immediately drilled down. I mean, you guys put forward your ideas. If you think you can think of a period you'd like to add, which is a sort of a long scale piece of time, which doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be millions of years, it could be hundreds of years, it could be thousands of years, but it's a long period of time in which events are defined by a theme. Then you've got events, which is what we're looking at here, actual things that happen during that period and form the actual bulk of the real history. And then you can have scenes, which we haven't done any of yet, where a question is posed that we need to answer something about the world or the thing, and then we have been doing them essentially for everything, because normally you don't discuss it. Someone says, this is what I put in, this is what I put in, and it goes round like that. But I don't know, I think this way works just as well, doesn't it? It's not like it's not like it's leading us to any real major issues. I'm not seeing anything immediately popping out of chat. So, do we? I
can try to add another one.
Why not? If something pops up, we can stick that in. But you get your last one in, as it were, and we'll see what's going on. Just noticed. It says that you edited that one, but it doesn't actually accredit the rest of them. Very odd.
That's because for some reason when I think the way you have to join this is via the home page, and then you say what person you are, or
okay.
And then when you've done that, it does. Yeah. So it's got to be about the blood mops.
Yeah, or the Undivided Union, as they would prefer to be known.
Yeah. Dirty blood mops.
Goddamn blood mops.
I'm going to add a period, and it's going to be light, and it's going to be the reconciliation.
Ooh, I do think that the phrase blood mop and the words blood mop and period should not be too close together in a paragraph.
No.
It's just giving me
Janitors.
No. Oh my god. Or perhaps we should say Janitors. Oh, that was bad. That was the worst joke I've ever told, and there's been some serious composition for that crown.
So this is going to be the Neutral Monday Agreement.
The Neutral Monday Agreement. Nice. I like it. That definitely needs to be a band.
Yeah.
Hello, we're Neutral Monday Agreement, and this is our song. Oh.
Starts restarts the political process.
Okay. So this is post-scarcity era. The food situation has come back to normal, and now we're going into a period of reconciliation where everyone has to go, well, I know we started eating people, but can we rejoin? Can we rejoin you guys? Burp. Oh, it smells like grandma. Specs Marina has suggested that we need some protagonists and antagonists, some character interaction to make this interesting. So if you have a specific person or something that you want to add, or feel free to propose a scene, Specs Marina. If you want to say, you just need to look at an event, come up with a question about it, and then we have to decide what is the answer to that question, essentially. So if you want to know who people are or anything like that, then feel free to put that scene out there. He's proposing a scene. He needs to see a scene to propose a scene. Oh, I see. Maybe we should stick a scene in. Basically, for this, normally scenes take place as in people take on characters and play a scene out. But often we do it in a more abstract manner, where we kind of discuss what's going on. It's what we've been doing essentially throughout. We're kind of letting scenes leak into everything, but it's fun to do that way. But if you suggest a scene, we will stop and discuss a specific idea and figure out what's the deal. Maybe if I put some words in your mouth, Specs Marina. Sorry to do that. If we look at the events again, sorry to storm all over your period ad, Chunky. Sorry. I think if we look at the difficulties, we could put a scene in there which asks the question, maybe who are the major players? So maybe we want to just put in who the major players are in the difficulties. So we could say who's the leader of the insurgency, that kind of thing. Oh my goodness!
Who's the head of the security force for the rest of it?
Fagus. It's spelt with a PH. That's an important distinction to make. Sorry, what was that you said, Scoundrel? I'm talking to myself. What was that you said, Chunky?
Who's also the head of the security team or teams, or like the security officer.
Okay, so let's look at the scene. I'm going to add a scene now. Are we in the right? Yeah, we're in the scarcity era, in the difficulties. So, in this scene, we're going to discuss. It's a meeting of the Undivided Union, and it's the meeting where they discuss what their response is going to be to the stalemate in the war. That's the situation they're in right now, isn't it? During the Troubles, the war's hit a stalemate. The difficulties. The war's hit a stalemate, and now they're entering into a sort of campaign of civilian bombing, as it were. Yeah,
guerrilla warfare.
Guerrilla warfare. That's right. Okay, so what's the name for it? What's a good name for a meeting? Conflab? No.
Accord?
Accord. That's an agreement.
Yeah.
Let's call it the. Oh, I've got to click edit. Well done, Scoundrel. Call it the Guerrilla Diaries. No. The Guerrilla Convention. What's it called? What do they have when? What is it when the political parties all have their big meeting in the year? Conference. The Guerrilla Conference. Okay, so the Guerrilla Conference, and the question is, and we're going to assume this is dark. We're posing a question. I'd like to know why the generation ship was launched. Was it the best and brightest of our homeworld? Was it dying? Okay, so Osmosis has proposed another scene. Maybe we pop to that one next round. See what happens there. Hello, Archimedes. Welcome back to the stream. Thanks for joining us. We shall fight the blood mops. Stand united for our way of life. In the Guerrilla Conference, the Undivided Union decide to engage in a guerrilla war against the rest of the ship to tip the balance in the stalemate, in the engine room stalemate. How does this happen? What's the question we're asking here? Because I've just proposed a scenario and failed to put a question in. So who were the major players?
Yeah, who are the major players and why did it start? Why did the
Why did they come to this conclusion? Why did they? We can add the people as a thing. Why did they come
situation
to this conclusion? Question. Okay, so now we need to discuss this and maybe do some little character bits. I'm thinking that the conference is essentially like all of the subgroups of the custodial people on the because I keep thinking of it as custodial staff, but that's not what it would be on a ship like this. This would be generations of people born into a sort of caste system, I think.
Yeah.
So, or a caste? Is it caste or caste?
Caste. I think it's caste.
Caste system, yeah. So they're born into a sort of caste system. So I think, like, within their caste, they've organised, because they've been for a fairly long time engaged in this engine room war and, eating the people they're killing and, going fairly batshit by most standards. So they're probably having,
famine victims.
How are there, eating nothing but famine victims, that's got to be unsatisfying. I'm wondering, what is their society like? So who are the people who are going to be here? Are we looking at like a ravening horde of Mongol warriors thirsty for blood? Or are we looking at, Soviet soldier in the trenches desperately looking for a gun to go with the bullets they've given him? What kind of situation, what kind of organisation do they have? Because I think the Undivided Union implies a kind of a union, of course.
Yeah. I've got more the impression of, for some reason, that they're like blackguards. They're like, they wait in the shadows and hit people with their tools.
So very, ambush. So guerrilla war from the outset. But they attempted in the main first thrust of the engine room war. They attempted a proper all-out assault, and then when that fails, it leads to this.
Because a lot of these guys are going to know the ship by the back of their hand, right? They're going to know all the small areas and the passageways and the what do they call them?
Vents.
Yeah, vents.
Access tunnels,
that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think what they're called.
Well, I'm thinking maybe within the Undivided Union, there's a group of people who essentially have, their family lines have ended up somehow having their like role in the ship removed or become obsolete, and so they don't really have anything. They're basically just totally unemployed, and they don't have anything necessarily to do. So they sort of turn to crime. So there's a sort of an undercurrent within the union itself. There's an undercurrent of organised criminals, and these are the people pushing for there are voices of sanity saying, look, they'll forgive us for eating people. We're all hungry. Maybe we can sue for peace and end the war, and maybe we'll be able to convince them to turn around. But these criminal factions have got, for some reason, it's to their benefit that the bombs start going off. Maybe they are the ones, they've got the technology, they have the wherewithal to make these explosives and weapons and stuff.
Or do they just want power?
To wrest power. So they
want to have a bigger piece of that power, which they never had before.
So they get themselves a demagogue.
Yeah.
Okay, let's come up with a name. Who is the demagogue who they get in to get everybody all riled up and make them want to start bombing? Spectrum says 90% of Undivided Union lost their lives due to decompression as they degraded to prehistoric intelligence level and ripped through the ship walls. See, that's the thing. To rip through the ship walls, they've got to get through everybody else's floor because they're nearest to the core of the ship, near the spinning spindle. So, although that does have a certain something to it, like the actual. That could be a thing though, like a mass decompression of the floors. Like there's an enormous reconstruction work where the other factions all dig these like tunnels round to the edge of the tube, and then through like a massive event they stop it spinning for a bit and then just vent everything in those floors. I mean that's
that would be dangerous.
Fucking brutal as well. Absolutely brutal. Rash Japper mutton. Why not? Let's have criminal mastermind Here we go. What's that? Rash Japper Mutton. With an apostrophe after rash. Or mouton. Rash Japper Mouton. There we go. So Rash Japper Mutton runs for the role of chairperson of the Undivided Union. Only one D. Well, two in the word, only one at the end. 3 Ds, actually. Oh my goodness, it's a 3D word. Undivided Union. What does he do? He is successful after an intense campaign of
interscene warfare.
Well, I'm thinking like an intense campaign of like propaganda. So he manages to convince everybody that the
rabble rousing.
No, here's the idea. Okay, he convinces everybody that they have to do this because if they don't do these bombings in strategic places and take out the right people, they are going to vent them. So he invents a conspiracy of the idea that they're going to stop the spinning, they're going to line up some tunnels they've cut into the rest of the ship to the outside, and they're just going to vent all of them out into space. So, propaganda about propaganda about a conspiracy to vent their territory to space. There we go. Okay, so Rash Japper Mutton, he basically gets in, takes over, and decides that he's going to be he's a plumber, apparently.
Esophagus system plumber.
Esophagus, yeah, the engine tube. So he has to clear out all of the sort of like veins and stuff. Maybe he wouldn't be, because he's part of this criminal underclass that don't have anything. But maybe he could be descended from people who were responsible for, one of the hearts of the ship has to be stopped every now and again, and people have to climb in and clean out all the fat and the cholesterol and stuff. But a new kind of like little mini ship was invented that actually now lives in the bloodstream and eats all the stuff. And so they were made completely redundant. And that's why his family is no longer involved in arterial plumbing, because the heart plumbers are no longer, or the arterial cleaners are no longer a required group of people. How's that sound?
Basically a Luddite.
Basically a Luddite, yeah. He wants to go and smash or squish the blood cleaning polyps. He's just going to go around with a hammer in all the veins, smashing all these blood cleaning polyps that have taken generations of work away from a proud family. Okay, so let's see if we can crystallise this in text form. So criminal mastermind Rash Japper Mutton runs for the role of chairperson of the Undivided Union. He is successful after an intense campaign of propaganda about a conspiracy to vent their territory to space. He is descended... He is descended from an obsolete caste of
specialism.
Yeah. Specialized arterial and heart cleaners. There we go. They were replaced with bioengineered blood polyps. Let's call them that. Blood polyps. There we go. Okay, so we've crystallised that. That's stuck in. Hello, Clay Cree. Welcome back to the stream, and I apologise for the gross imagery, but that's the scoundrel promise. You'll at least once go, so what have we got next? We haven't really answered why, have we? Well, we have, haven't we? They because of the propaganda conspiracy.
Yeah, that's why they started that guerrilla warfare.
Okay, so they started because of it, and it was done by Rash Jappa Mutton, who is a criminal mastermind descended from blood cleaners. There we go. Okay, so that's the Guerrilla Conference, our first bona fide scene, answering the question, why did the Undivided Union, aka the Blood Mops, engage in a terrorist campaign of bombings throughout the residential zones of the ship? Because they were lied to by a man whose name is synonymous with itching. Okay, so let's head back. Now, your period, sorry, to get back to what you were adding, you've got a period of reconciliation, right? Or have you not added that yet?
I've added it.
You've added it. It's not. Oh, I'm looking at events, aren't I? Let's go back to the overview.
Yeah.
Here we go. So we've got the reconciliation. The Neutral Monday Agreement restarts the political process. Beautiful name. Beautiful name. Okay, so I think that does a full round, which makes me the lens, or is there something you do at the end? Don't you get an opportunity to add a few bits and bobs? Should you so wish?
Well, we're supposed to do that thing, which is a legacy, but I've never quite figured out what that really entails. So we can ignore it.
Well, Osmosis Jones was thinking more of a period than a scene with his ideas. So he wants to look at he wants to investigate the first period, essentially, I think, to actually generate the backstory for how we get to be in this colony ship. But anyway,
why don't we focus on that?
Well, because that can be the chat's focus. Because I want to have a quick look and see if there's anything I want to make the focus this round.
I'm would have to leave shortly, actually. Anyway.
Okay. About 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay then. I think make the focus of this round. Excuse me. Parasitic and symbiotic ships. Okay? Mm-hmm. And I am going to propose that with a new period. Where are we? I'm going to add it here after the reconciliation and before the last period. So in here, we've got a new period, which I am going to call the Age of Conception. And essentially, this age, the decision is made to create a second ship to allow dissident factions to physically schism. Physically schism. The slow process. The process of making the ship pregnant, is a long one. There we go. So essentially they decide that they need to, it's a light era. This is a light period for me. Okay, there we go. So the Age of Conception. Basically they decide that there's been so much internecine war throughout the history of the ship that they need to make a second ship to allow people to actually leave. So maybe in this period they're thinking of how to gather the resources to create a second ship. They're engineering a huge a Stardock womb on the ship, and then allowing for the new ship to be grown. Maybe they're looking for a new asteroid to seed with the biology to make it into a ship. Perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure. Okay, Specs Moon is interested in Rash's early days, so maybe at some point we'll investigate those and drill down a bit deeper. So I put my first period in, which means it is chat's turn to interject with something, which would be something related to the idea of parasitic and symbiotic ships. I expect me to say forget about Rash Japper, but how do the ships mate? Well, I think the thing about the ships is that they are created. They are alive, but created. So the process for the original ship to be made, something like this, they get the asteroid, they bring it to where they needs to be, and they begin to hollow it out to create the internal superstructure. And then various like forms of nerve bundles are grown and threaded through different like parts of the ship. Sensor organs are grown and placed on the exterior or, in protective zones of the ship. And all of the important parts are constructed, but the mind itself would be in some, there would be a brain controlling. Maybe it's like an octopus. It's got the distributed nervous system throughout the entire ship. So if you lose a part, it doesn't really matter. Very similar to 3D printing a space whale, but what they would need to do is they need to like completely repurpose a segment of the ship. They would just need to, maybe remove one of the engines and create like a womb zone, a little birthing chamber where the new ship's organs can be begun to be grown. I don't know. Maybe they have some kind of printing thing. They managed to print the stone that they would have otherwise have used. Because I don't know, maybe it's an entirely new concept of ship. Maybe they're trying to create the what's the name of the little spacecraft in Deep Space Nine that they have? It's like the super advanced little ship.
The shadow ones.
No, I'm thinking it's like the common.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like a Federation ship, and it's basically just the dish with two stubby little bits underneath it. Saying such simple things with long sentences. I can't help myself, Specs Marina. It's practically a disability. I think Chunky Nut can vouch for the fact that if I can say something with 2 words, I'll use 40.
Yeah.
just like
talking about the Defiant?
The Defiant, that's the one. Yeah, that's like a little like super high tech ship that's one of a kind kind of thing, isn't it? Or is that the Voyager? Maybe I shouldn't go to Star Trek for bioship metaphors. Maybe I should look elsewhere. But anyway, you've got to go in a minute. So what we'll do actually is we can maybe put a bookmark on this and say it's the beginning of my round as the lens. Remember that we're focusing on. There is a thing to put what the lens is, isn't there?
Yes.
Is it in the log? Nope. Game data. Current legacy, Scoundrel M, Chunky Nut. So I will focus. Okay, we can edit that. There we go. Edit, focus.
Yeah.
Symbiotic / parasitic ships. There we go. Save. Okay, so we know what this is now. I'll bookmark this as well. Bookmark. Okay. Apparently I can only bookmark.
Yeah, osmosis chance. This is free to use.
Yeah. We can put the link in.
Jedi.com.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super keen to just put the link to this specific one out unless we can make it read only, because
no, I don't think you can.
Yeah, no, because people will just have we got it password protected? Because they can actually just see the fucking link at the top of the screen.
Yeah, no, you can't make it password protected either.
Okay, well, we're all on trust, everybody, okay? So no fiddling, no getting in there when nobody's looking and adding weird things in. But I'm sure we can all. What am I talking about? This is the internet. You can't trust anybody on the internet. Yeah. Never mind. It's all good. So yeah, this is Microscope. I would be very keen to continue this. I have enjoyed. There's two of me. I've enjoyed it. I think it's got plenty of possibility for expansion. So yeah, if you're interested, Chunky, fancy doing this again, we'll organise something off stream and figure out when to do it. Maybe bring in a third person if we can. I don't know if anyone's going to be available or not, but who knows? Who knows? It's fairly easy to set these up online as long as people have got access to Discord. It's quite straightforward. Although they also need a laptop or a computer to do this. So all the console lads, they're going to be futilely thumbing their joypads, trying to type stuff out using a wheel of text. No good. Let's have a little look here. So we launch countless dozens of space Valkyrie to get their mating goo all over some asteroids, and we get a space whale to use for space travel. Yes, essentially, that's the way it goes. Earlier on, we were discussing dolphins piloting ships, which was an interesting... Uplifted dolphins. That's a good point. We haven't even touched on uplifting, have we? We haven't even touched on any aliens. It's been an entirely internal story so far. Of course, anybody who's been watching this and has enjoyed it, feel free to make yourself some notes so you remember ideas you had for next time, and maybe chat can be have more input in the next one. We'll see what happens. And if you fancy drawing anything or making a little bit of art based on anything that we've come up with here, I'd love to see that. I would be very keen to show people stuff like that. Always warms the cockles of my heart to receive art submissions and stuff. So, I encourage that, but entirely up to you. I'm not going to force you. Although, if I'm honest, if I could, I would. I'd chain you all up. I'd make you sit there in front of the computer drawing 24 hours a day. And then, the ones of you who aren't any good at drawing, you'd go into the vats. You'd be liquefied, turn into Soylent Green, and I'd sit there with a big straw slurping you up while I watched. That's not entirely true. That's not. I wouldn't call that one of my deepest seated desires. More of a whimsical tangent, in fact. Here we go. Thank you very much, Osmosis Jones, for doing all the links. What time is it? 11 o'clock. I might continue with a little bit of the old Blender, but then again, maybe if I get an early night, I'll get a chance to do a daytime stream tomorrow or something. We'll see. But
I'm going to have to go. So
no problem.
I will see you all later. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to have you. A lot of fun.
Cool.
Always good to have a wingman on stream. See you around.
See you later. Bye.
Bye. There we go. There's Chunkynut gone. Disappeared into the winds, vanished into the ether, as one is wont to do. So yeah, I think we've had a good little game here. We will return to this at some point. We'll see if we can get more people involved. Maybe if we get different people, start a new game or something. Although I would like to continue this one. It has a certain something about it, doesn't it? I realise now I've been recording for 1 hour and 6 minutes. So those of you watching on YouTube, thank you very much for doing so. Hopefully this will turn into something a little bit more organised and, professional is the wrong word, but, a little bit more structured in the future. And I'll be able to do something maybe with some visuals as well, because just looking at that website is perhaps not the most visually stimulating method of getting the game across. If we could get people around a table with a camera and some post-it notes, that would be fantastic. But we'll see how it works out. So, who have we got here in chat? Let me just have a quick look. Okay, we've only got a few people in. What to do? I think I'm going to take a break. I'm going to call it a night for now. So there may be a daytime stream, afternoon stream tomorrow, but don't bank on it. And there won't, crucially, be the normal Monday stream tomorrow because I did this instead. And we've pushed all the, looking after kids and stuff schedule around to fit it. So there is that. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. It's been a genuine pleasure streaming for you. I'm going to quickly leave you with the credits rolling and play my outro tune. And hopefully you will enjoy it. Anybody who's subscribed or donated or followed or anything will appear in these credits. So feel free to hang around and have a look. Nighty night, Osmosis. Have a good one. Thank you all for watching again. It's been a genuine pleasure, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Gum.